Starter, please.
Welcome back into Rover Sports, guys. This is on Bruce Grossinger Facebook, but this is also to my YouTube and going to be to my Twitter page. NFL Sunday wraps up. Week 2 is in the books. And today we had some results that we expected, and we had some football games that frankly told us more about the teams in the NFL. We learned more data today, Bruce, and what were some of your takeaways, and where do you want to begin tonight's show?
Well, we're broadcasting right here in the suburbs of Philadelphia, so I think it's relevant to talk about Eagles-Chiefs. In looking at the game, I think it was a disappointing performance. I think if you look at statistics, you'll see Carson Wentz threw for over 300 yards, but the way the game felt, I like to see the way it felt. It didn't feel like the Eagles really had a chance to win, and at the end, it almost reminded me a little bit of that Mayweather fight. Looks like the Chiefs were toying with the Eagles. At the end, Kelsey completely abused the Eagles, literally leapt over them and mocked the Eagles sign. And it really made me angry to watch that. And the Eagles were defenseless. Carson Wentz, in crunch time, threw a ball literally against the guy's helmet for an easy interception. The running game in Philly was non-existent. Literally, LeGarrette Blount didn't have one rush. So I think Doug Peterson was trying to out Andy Reid, Andy himself, and basically didn't run the ball. And it's going to set up an interesting game next week with two mirror image teams, Giants and Eagles.
I love this because we didn't even plan this, but I mean, everything you just said, and I could say this to you because we happen to be close. What you just said, I really don't see eye to eye at all with you. I thought the Eagles were toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs the entire game. You know, in the third quarter, you had an unfortunate bounce. I thought the Eagles looked fantastic today. I mean, Alex Smith, you know, this is one of the more explosive offenses in the NFL with Tyreek Hill. Corners played great. Brandon Graham all over the field. No running game at all. Kansas City looked crappy and pedestrian. Eagles, you know, are Caleb Sturgis is hurt, so they should have gotten a field goal before the half. Well, maybe not. That was a very lucky play to get down to the red zone anyway. Kansas City has a tremendous defense. You're going to Arrowhead. I didn't expect the Eagles to win this game, but their defense was phenomenal today. They were tied with Kansas City. I think probably a top 5 team in the NFL, top 4. You're on the road at their place with 10 days of rest, and Jim Schwartz just goes out and you know, in the words of Theodore Roosevelt, you know, he said, like, carry a big stick. Well, that's what Jim Schwartz did today. And I thought that the defense played great. I thought Carson, you know, hit Torrey Smith a couple of times. The running game is certainly a concern. Sam Malu is going to be a concern. You're not going to have a perfect product, but I look at this Eagles team. You should be very optimistic about the football team. You know, I didn't expect them to beat Kansas City. You know, when it's basically the Eagles are like the NBA Finals. You know, Bruce, when you go on the road for 2 games to start off an NBA playoff, your goal is to get 1 game on the road, and they did that with the Washington game. They go back, they're 1-1. You know, it's no secret that I think next week's going to be a walk-in win. I think the game's over before it's even played. And then you look at Miami. Miami beat San Diego or LA. Anthony Lynn and the Chargers are 0-2. That game's looking even better, too. So I think things are roses in Philly. I think that everybody should be in a great mood. I thought the team played really well today in Kansas City.
Well, I don't know any fans that are in a great mood after a loss. I think if, you know, here at Philly, if any fans are in a good mood after a loss, I think they definitely need some psychiatric help. There are definitely some bright spots, but what we do is we feel the mood, the somber mood after a loss, and I'm going to first point out what I think are the detriments. We watched a lot of football today. I don't see Doug Peterson having a flair for play calling. Again, the offensive line looked really poor today. I just don't see it. I don't see innovative play calling. I don't see misdirection. It's very vanilla. It feels like I'm watching preseason. Oh, yeah, there are a few plays where Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith caught some balls. Zach Ertz is kind of like Jordan Matthews. He's the safety blanket, you know, but I just don't see any continuity. I don't feel a flow to the game. And the defense is clearly the strength. The defense played great. That's the frustrating thing. The defensive line played well. The cornerbacks all rose to the occasion. Tyreek Hill did not burn the Eagles. And this Kareem Hunt is a phenomenal, he's a star in the making. And a guy like Pumphrey, who was a complete wasted draft pick, it really burns us that we basically drafted a guy who weighs 110 pounds and to think he could play in the NFL. So, sorry I'm a little hoarse. This is hay fever season. But the strengths, of course, defensive line, secondary was a strength. The wide receivers, Ertz. I didn't think that Wentz played terribly. I think a lot of it has to do with the game plan. But at the end, they had it. It was Andy Reid all over again. Doug Peterson. They had a chance. There was a little over 2 minutes left, and it reminded me of the Super Bowl. They took their time. They scored a touchdown with 14 seconds left. So there's no sense of urgency, and I think that's inexperience, and I hope it's not lack of intelligence. But what I see is a real nice, touchy-feely, warm guy in Doug Peterson, very likable. But the NFL is the big time. So far, I haven't seen that Doug Peterson is ready for the big time. So that's my take on the Eagles. Let's talk about. I don't think we want to dwell on it.
I know, but you could have, what is Anthony Lynn ready for the big time and Sean McDermott? I just think being tied with Kansas City, they're one of the best teams in football. I just think it's unrealistic to expect the Eagles to go into Arrowhead and be a flawless team. You look at this team, and Carson Wentz looks good. He's going to get better than he did today. The secondary is the biggest concern, and the secondary is out there playing lights out against a great passing attack. This is a game that I pencil that Eagles fans should have realistically expected this team to lose. The Eagles aren't a playoff team. They went to Kansas City, and this game was a lot closer than the score indicated. And everybody should be looking forward to the season, trusting in Doug Peterson, because this team is really looking like an elite team. It's looking. You look at the division. You really think the Eagles aren't winning the division today after what Dallas is putting on the field? Just surprising that it's not surprising at all. People are negative, but that's the nature of being a fan, I guess, is that people are negative. So,
well, the point of the matter is, what we want.
I guess next Sunday they won't be negative. This will all be rear view mirror stuff. But I guess today people are negative.
When you say people, who are you referring to?
To fans of the Eagles.
No, I'm looking at objectively. Okay, when you see a game that's winnable, basically Kansas City again. The Eagles were in the game, so it just didn't feel like they could get over the hump. And in the fourth quarter, they imploded. They really did. Carson Wentz imploded. He was overthrowing people. So it's easy.
But
I'm in the middle of talking.
Does Kansas City have a good team? You have to consider the opponent.
I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me speak. So at the end of the game, terrible clock management, and uninnovative play calling. Isaac Sayamalo had one of the worst games. We watched it closely. It was Winston Justin all over again. Okay, this guy completely abused. And the fact is, anybody who enjoys watching a team, every single year. So when are they going to get better? What are they going to get over the hump? And it's frustrating. So I'm speaking for this town. This town's frustrated. The town's angry. And if you just say, la-di-da, we're not going to be a playoff team, well, that's how it's been since.
I didn't say they weren't going to be a playoff team. I just said they were not a playoff team last year, and they're making great strides. And to be tied with Kansas City, I know that it's a loss. But, you're looking at the way that the division's shaking out. You look at the bigger picture. Going into Kansas City, that's a tremendous defense with Justin Houston, with guys on the defensive front, with Derek Johnson playing linebacker there, with Dee Ford, with just, that's an elite defensive front that the Eagles are playing with Chris Jones, with Benny Logan, who was in Philly, and you guys know how, successful Logan has been.
Let's look at the game.
That's a great defensive front.
Game,
and Doug Peterson is not a finished product. He's going to continue to learn. And today, they hit some passes early in the game, but Kansas City is a monster team, and you got to give credit to a team that could be in the AFC title game this year. I think Kansas City's a top 4 team in this league right now.
Well, listen, maybe today after 2 weeks. So what I know about the NFL, it's an ebb and flow. It's an ebb and flow league. They had a big win last week against the Patriots. They had a solid win. I'm not taking anything away from them, but I guarantee I'm going to circle a game that's away, and Kansas City will get blown out and look terrible. Just look what happened to the Dallas Cowboys today. You always see this. You can almost feel it. It's a 4 o'clock game in Denver on national TV. and somehow Denver was just going to blow them out. And you could feel it. I'm not a betting guy, but it doesn't make sense. But it was just a complete blowout. But there's just a certain feel. There's certain games. Now, you might be right. The Eagles have one home game in the first month. They might blow out the Giants next week because they've got all this pent-up energy.
Yeah.
I think this town is passionate in Philly, and I believe that the Giants have flaws. But I look at the Eagles. The Eagles have flaws on the offensive line and running game. The Giants have flaws in the same areas. The quarterbacks, I look at Wentz, who obviously is up and coming. I look at Eli as a veteran quarterback. I think that's a wash right there. I look at the defense. I see the defensive secondary of the Giants head and shoulders better than the Eagles. I think the Eagles' defensive line a little better. Linebackers are a wash. Coaching, Ben McAdoo, not very impressive. So I think in many ways this game is very close. And I mean, I would see what the early line is, but I wouldn't expect it to be much more than 3 or 4 points. But you somehow think the Giants are going to get blown out.
This game is going to be Eagles. The line's going to come out. The Eagles are going to be favored by 6, and the Eagles are going to win this game by about 20 to 25. This is going to be a whitewash. I mean, you look at Jim Schwartz, and his summer resume is the toughest in football. I mean, the Eagles' defense plays their best so far at the beginning of the year. Against Chicago, they were fresh. Against Cleveland and against the Steelers, they beat a team that was in the AFC Championship 31-3 last year. And didn't allow Ben Roethlisberger to score 1 touchdown in their house last year. They embarrassed the Steelers. So this Eagles team, they love to peak early. And, I look at the New York Giants, and Trevor freaking Siemian today diced up the Dallas defense. How do you think the Giants are feeling today? A lot of people were like, Dallas is a good team. Dallas is a good team. Did they look like a good team today, or did Trevor Siemian just absolutely tear them apart? So you look at Eli Manning, and they have the worst offensive line in football. It doesn't matter if they had Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. Eli Manning's not going to have time to throw the ball. The Eagles are not going to need to blitz 1 second next week. They're going to need to all they have to do to get to the Giants is rush 4 guys. There's going to be 7 guys in coverage. You double Odell Beckham, and the Giants aren't going to score more than 10 points. It is going to be an embarrassment. I suggest, Giants fans, it's going to be a rough game for you guys. You guys better have that key in the car ready to go. You better have your car unlocked by halftime, because you should leave at halftime next week if you go to that game, because it is going to be a monster blowout. It's one of my locks of the year. But sure, we can go into other NFL topics. And the NFL is a beautiful thing because it is an ebb and flow. It is an emotional kind of construct. And today, Awuzie gets hurt for the Dallas Cowboys. Nolan Carroll is banged up. And Siemian, looks decisive. Now, Trevor Siemian, Bruce, at the beginning of last year, he had an amazing beginning of last year. Remember when Siemian beat the Cincinnati Bengals? I think that the Broncos started out 3-0, 4-0. Sam Bradford looked great for four games. Alex Smith looked like a world beater last year. But Trevor Siemian could resort back into the same wussy, weak, check down Charlie that he is, and it's one football game. So yes, he looked okay, but is he going to be that decisive the whole year? And let's see if Mike McCoy, this offensive coordinator out there in Denver, can keep Trevor's play up.
Well, this is my point. The NFL is ebb and flow. It's also unpredictable. But one thing you can predict is the Denver Broncos at home, 4 o'clock on a national game. That's ideal. Are you going to see some games, where Trevor Siemian, he might go to Los Angeles, they might go to the Chargers, and Phillip Rivers might throw for 5 touchdowns. Now, again, that's unlikely because Denver is a good defense. In Siemian, they might get under his skin. Certainly, we watched the late game tonight, and Aaron Rodgers, I felt bad for him because he took some hits that would have killed most people in this game. And, so I think it's an ebb and flow league. I don't believe that the Denver's particularly going to be a great road team. I don't, especially when they have to come east. Let's say they play a team like Carolina. They play a team even like the Giants. So, yes, I'm not saying we're not putting Trevor Siemian in a Hall of Fame. He is a game manager. He distributes the ball. He called himself a point guard. You saw the post-game interview. He is a distributor of the ball.
Right.
And today he did it quite well, almost like Alex Smith was, again, a game manager.
He's
back to the same Alex
He's a
Smith.
7th rounder from Northwestern. That's Trevor Siemian right there.
Well, you know what? But again, that
He's
you
a
could slot-
seventh rounder.
But it doesn't matter. You have to look at his body of work. Today, he played exceptional.
Today.
He threw the ball sharp.
Yep.
So just the way
He was 8-8 last year. He's off to a 2-0 start this year, and he squeaked by last week, and he had a great game today.
I just want to touch upon the injury report. Really good guy, Greg Olson. I think he's going to be a Hall of Fame tight ender for the Panthers. He went down with a broken foot. We haven't heard the x-rays. It sounds like it might be a Jones fracture. Also, another one of our favorite guys, Garrett Bowles, I believe he's a guard from the Broncos. He's also a rookie. He went out with an ankle injury. It was unclear whether this was a torn Achilles, whether this was an ankle fracture, but it looked bad, and he was carted off, and that was certainly sad to see because Bowles was starting for the Broncos. Really great story. And tell us a little bit about Garrett Bowles.
It's disappointing. Garrett's a guy that's battled so much adversity in his life, getting kicked out of 5 high schools, and it's really unfortunate with Garrett, how he bounced back, and I'm definitely going to check some of your comments here. We have Ryan Cook and Brett McCann-McIntyre. It's a terrible thing what happened to Garrett Bowles. Kyle, we could talk about the Gators right now. We could talk a little college football. I know you guys want us to get to that, so we'll hit on that as well after the injury report and talking about the NFL. We'll get to Brett and we'll get to Kyle Woodward. But really, Bruce, looking at Garrett, it's really disappointing that could be a big hit for Denver because they draft him at the 20th pick. They rely on Stevenson, Leary, Max Garcia, and Paradas to block. They've been doing a decent job thus far, so we'll have to see kind of how they develop. I want to tailor a couple of comments first to the listeners out there. You saw the Florida Hail Mary by Felipe Franks. Kyle Woodward's a big Gator fan. And, that Gator defense looked pretty good. I thought that the Gators were going to blow that game because that running back didn't secure that football running in for what should have been a 20-3 lead. And then Tennessee caught fire late in the game. John Kelly, the Florida couldn't cover the screen game whatsoever, and they benefited from Butch Jones not running the ball down at the goal line. I mean, pretty terrible play calling from the Vols yesterday.
Certainly, and we saw Franks, who's a true freshman, threw the ball 65 yards in the air for a Hail Mary victory for the Florida Gators. And I know that we have a lot of Gators fans, a lot of SEC fans, but obviously they broke the heart of the Vols and a lot of our friends in Tennessee. So it was an exciting day yesterday. Yeah. UCLA disappointed. I thought that Rosen came back down to earth.
Looked great. 4 touchdowns, and he can't carry. They give up 48 points to Riley Ferguson and company, though. I mean, Jim Mora, that team's a train wreck, though.
That's
Bruce.
true. The defense is.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we expect a lot from him, and it petered out in the last bit of the drive. We could also look at LSU getting shellacked yesterday. Eddie Ogeron getting completely embarrassed.
Right.
Nebraska getting embarrassed at home, and the AD for Nebraska came out today and said that it's unacceptable. And you look at a guy like Mike Riley, and his job might be in jeopardy.
It might be, but, it's only his third year. He's recruiting a lot of kids out west. They've lost their identity. They're a soft team. They take on the identity of Mike, which is he's soft as baby powder, I know Pelini was wild, and Pelini would get embarrassed, in big spots when they'd get to the Big Ten title game and whatnot. And, Pelini, though, was good for about 9 wins. His time kind of wore thin with Nebraska, but Mike Riley's just a whole different level of awful. And you look at the coaches that you could hire, and you look at Lincoln Riley, and he's in his first year, and he's already unbelievable. He already beat Urban Meyer. PJ Fleck, Willie Taggart, Justin Fuente. You hire a great coach, you can turn the thing around. So if I were teams, I wouldn't be afraid to pull the trigger in this day and age. But you look at the SEC, and I know Brett's a big Georgia and Falcons fan, and I look at UGA. And I love their defensive front. Thompson, Ledbetter, Atkins. The linebackers are incredible. Roquan, Lorenzo. And it's just, you guys just have sensational players, Natra. So I think that next week, Mississippi State, Georgia, Bruce, that game's now looking like a doozy because maybe Mississippi State's just incredible. Maybe just Todd Grantham, maybe just Jeffrey Simmons, Leo Lewis, Jerry Green. Maybe these guys are just sensational. And I look at Mississippi State, Bruce, and what Grantham is doing with this Mississippi State team. And that game in Athens, if CBS could have that decision back, they sure wouldn't be going to Vandy for 3:30. Georgia, Mississippi State with Fitzgerald coming back to his home state. That's going to be a must-see game. Really, next week's college football slate is admittedly a weak slate next week.
We want to put a word out for a great place. It's called Carlino's Italian Eatery in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. We're going to be doing a remote next Saturday. So next Saturday at noon to 2, we're going to be doing a pregame, and it's going to be a tailgate pregame at Carlino's on County Line Road. And there will be giveaways. We're going to have the whole Rover Sports team there. And there is also going to be discounts on food. Nick Carlino will be hosting. It's going to be beautiful. It's 80 degrees. Everybody come out. And you're going to be stocking up because next Sunday at 1 o'clock is Eagles-Giants. So, again, we're brought to you by Carlino's Italian Eatery. And today we had tremendous food from Carlito's. We had the red tomato pie. We had the cheese, the meats, the pastas, the breads, everything. So you guys join us. All you people out there, you're going to amplify that, I'm sure. Go right ahead.
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to amplify it, guys. And if you can even leave comments below, I know we might have a lot of fans outside of the Pennsylvania market, but in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, we will be going to Carlino's next Saturday at noon. And if you guys, live hopefully within actually
3 hours, let's say 3 hour drive.
Right.
3 hour drive. Let's not expect people to drive too far.
Right.
If you're within 3 hours, it's going to be a can't miss. We're going to have outdoor speakers.
150
There's
miles.
There's going to be everything you want.
It's going to be wonderful. Ardmore, PA, Carlino's. Please come meet us, we'd love to interact with you guys, have some great Italian food, and it's going to be a blast. It's one of our first remotes of the year, and we got a lot of remotes up and coming, so we're really excited that Carlino's was gracious enough to have us, and we are very fortunate that next Saturday is going to be a heck of a day to talk NFL and track this Eagles-Giants game and track a lot of games in the NFL. Bruce,
so we have a comment
here.
I
really wanted to first we'll answer your comment, but then I want to bounce around the league, get some snapshots, go down the ticker of the scores.
There's a comment from one of our Rovers, and this is Matthew Schenkel. He says, Spencer, I demand, look at the crystal ball. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Football, Giants, Lions, and MetLife. Look in the crystal ball. Give us a preview. Thank you, Matt.
I think that, this game is interesting, because Ben McAdoo's on the hot seat. I look at Matt Stafford heading, east out of Detroit, out of the dome up there, Ford Field, and Matt Stafford, he's like 5-30 versus teams with a winning record, and when you have, I just can't see Matt Stafford dominating this game. I can't see Amir Abdullah running the rock at all. I don't see Galladay getting anything. Now Detroit's defense is for real. Like Slay is a heck of a corner. They have Jarrett Davis. They have Ziggy Ansah. They have like real talent on the defensive side of the football, Bruce. And I think that this game is going to be a war. I think it's going to be, again, in the teens because both teams can't score. The Giants can't score and Detroit can't score. But I look, the Giants are going to squeak it out at home. I don't think Detroit, you watch Detroit go to Seattle. I don't know if Detroit has the confidence to just go east. And you mentioned the Denver game, the Cowboys going to Denver. I just see Detroit on the road at MetLife Stadium, home opener, and I actually see the Giants. I see the Giants getting this game. I don't see Detroit coming in there and winning that football game.
So this will be interesting. So it looks like Washington had a win today. The Eagles are 1-1. So if your prediction holds, the NFC East is going to be all deadlocked going into next weekend.
Very true.
And
Very
how
true.
exciting is that, for sure?
Incredibly exciting. Let's bounce down these scores. 24-10 Ravens. Kaiser gets hurt. Not a surprise, but Baltimore goes to London to play the Jags. That could be a 3-0 Baltimore team. So it's looking pretty good for Baltimore's playoff hopes right now, Bruce.
The Jags are going to look like British crumpets. They're going to lay down like lambs in London. And, of course, they always seem to lose that game.
Bruce, what do you think about Carolina? 2-0 now. Cam looks shaky, but Kawan Short, Vernon Butler, Peppers. That defensive line looked great today, didn't it? And if the linebackers can stay healthy, you have to admit, man, that Carolina defense ain't no joke.
Sure isn't. But look at the Buffalo Bills. They certainly have no offense at all. Tyrod Taylor, very spotty. Even Shady McCoy, they were triple teaming him. He did not have the game that he's capable of doing. And essentially, their rookie, what's his name?
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones, he was certainly dropping balls all over. But we watched with Buffalo Bills fans at the fabulous Kaminsky Sports Bar, and these guys were frustrated. They only scored 3 points. And so is Carolina's defense that good, or is Buffalo's offense that bad? I think it's a combination.
Look at the Buffalo games to go under this year because their defense played tremendous. The front seven, with Sean McDermott, very positive. I like how McDermott's clapping on the sideline. He's showing some personality. I'm starting to believe a little bit in Sean McDermott. I know it's what you call, quote unquote, a statement loss, but the Bills defense certainly actually looks, pretty formidable. You have I think the Cardinals and Carson Palmer, even though they won in overtime today versus the hapless Colts, I just think Carson and this Cardinals team, I just think they're straight bad. What do you think, Bruce?
I think so too. And I originally had the Arizona home game here in Philly. I had that circled as a loss, but the more I see of the Cardinals, it looks like Carson Palmer, he looks like he's really on the back end of his career. And I see that as a win for the Eagles. And again, the Colts are complete dumpster fire. And the fact that they obviously had a lead, but the fact that the Cardinals beat the Colts is not very impressive to me.
And David Shaw of Stanford was Andrew Luck's coach. There's already rumors circulating. I'll let you take these, and I'll let you take this one away, Bruce. I won't say anything. Titans 37, Jags 16.
Well, I think two really bad teams, and I think Mariota certainly had a good game. He was terrible last week. So when you look at teams like the Titans, you're really looking, in my opinion, at a 500 squad for the year. They're going to have – their defense was a little bit better, but again, you're against a real bad team. I didn't watch much of that game, and I can tell you all, I don't miss watching it.
The Jaguars, Blake Bortles. Jags are a really talented team. Once they get a quarterback in there, if they draft a stud next year, they're a playoff team instantly. That Telvin Smith's great. Calais Campbell's great. Jalen Ramsey and Boye. And Tennessee, got to give Mariota a chance. I thought Tennessee's defense stepped up today. I am not ready to say that they're 8-8. I think that we can undervalue them a lot at times. I'll start off with a couple of other games. Vikings-Steelers, we could just gloss over that. Bradford didn't play. Steelers went out decisively, won 26-9. Patriots-Saints, I think one of the best games of the day. Entertaining football. And Bruce, just talk about Tony Romo announcing the game and TB12 getting back on foot today.
I can tell you, in his career, I wasn't the biggest Tony Romo fan. That is, I had tremendous respect for him, but he's much better in the booth in the sense that he's very insightful. I like the fact that before the ball is snapped, he's predicting exactly what you're going to see. He also isn't afraid to make kind of outrageous statements. There was one play where he said Gronk does not know the play. He's going to run. He's going to just run real slow. And sure enough, he didn't know the play. And that's something where we listen to a lot of PC bros in the booth. So the fact that Robo is going to use his knowledge, he's very talkative. When you're with Jim Nantz, a lot of times you're with a legend, but Tony is a talker. He's fun. I like anybody that makes the game more interesting. And I think Phil Simms was kind of boring and didn't really add much to it. A very great guy, Hall of Famer. But Tony Romo, for what I see early on, is exciting, and you guys are going to enjoy watching and listening to his commentary.
We're going to bounce around here. Last three games of interest. Mike Glennon today, he showed what fans were worried about. He made devastating interceptions. He was late with throws. This team is so sloppy. I don't see John Fox getting out of this year. There was one of the dumbest plays in this game, Bruce. There is a punt, and this just irks me, and I'm not even a huge Bears fan. There's this guy, Tariq Cohen. Shout out to another Jewish player in the NFL, of course, Mr. Cohen, right?
Mr. Cohen, and I want to wish him a very early Happy New Year. Lashana Tova to Mr. Cohen
so this is what
of the Chicago Bears.
This is what Tariq Cohen does. This is what players love to do. When there's a punt and it's rolling around, right, and the other team's going to down it, what do some players do?
They want to touch the ball so they could give it up.
They want to run it. They feel like they're so impulsive, like a cat. Tariq Cohen, it was one of the worst instances I've ever seen in my life. They were literally about to down the ball. The guy puts his fingertips on the ball.
Did they kill him? Did they kill him?
You know where
they destroyed
you used to call guys in basketball that would throw up bricks instant turnover? That's what it was, man. Instant turnover. I flipped out.
Don't you love
it was
plays
just,
like that?
I screamed. I was like, are you kidding me? It was an are you kidding me moment. The Bears look horrible. Mike Glennon, they gave him all this money, right? But Mike Glennon, he just throws pick sixes everywhere. They don't play Tanner Gentry at all. Trubisky's going to get in sooner than you expected. Glennon looked okay, but he just forces the ball in the coverage so much.
He's terrible.
He makes bad decisions. He can't move around. Sometimes with these tall quarterbacks, they don't have the best footwork, so they can't go from one side of the field to the next. And Mitchell Trubisky looks like Michael Vick compared to Mike Glennon. So
question is, in my opinion, this season looks like it's already on the brink after 2 games.
Definitely.
It is a rebuilding year for the Bears, let's face it.
Oh, yeah, and it has been for the last 20 years.
The only chance that John Fox has to save his job is if you put Trubisky in there, Tanner Gentry, really exciting player from Wyoming. Got to put these young guys in because this guy Glennon, granted you overpaid for him drastically. He is boring as watching a fly crawl up the drape. He's like watching paint dry. It is unwatchable.
I personally, there's so many boring guys in the NFL. I think Josh McCown is the most boring guy by a mile. I will never watch McCown really play ever in the NFL. I looked at Glennon Bruce, and to tell you the truth, he wasn't boring. He was a little bit unknown. He almost had the game-winning drive last week. He needed that. But today, against a great Buccaneers defense that looks great to start off the season, he, again, is showing his true colors, his turnover-prone ability. You can't play with a quarterback like that. I don't know why Chicago gave them all this money, but you look at Dowell Loggins and John Fox, they need somebody fresh. Vance Joseph, we were just talking about Vance Joseph and coming in fresh, so I'd like to see Trubisky. I think the time is going to be very soon, maybe in the next couple of games. Their schedule is going to be brutal. Sean McVay, winnable game. They have the 49ers next Thursday.
That's going to be great.
They could have been that. I can't wait to see coaches. Shanahan, Kyle, and Sean McVay, 2 of our favorite guys. We got to meet them at the Combine. The Rams actually could have been 3-0 because you look at they had 2 winnable games, but today, unfortunately, the old predecessor, Jay Gruden, gets McVay 27-20.
Certainly. I think a lot of the Thursday night games are real yawners, but you got 2 teams. And McVay's a great guy. You just don't know what to expect. I think there's guys that aren't boring. They might be really bad, but I'd much rather watch bad than boring.
And listen, I mean, these are young teams. I think it could be, low scoring. I really do.
There could be a lot of turnovers.
The Niners,
could be a lot of mistakes, but that's fun to watch.
What's interesting is
especially if you're not rooting for either team. If you're rooting for them, not so much fun.
Not fun to watch.
Not fun at all, actually.
Brian Hoyer, not fun. 12-9. I look at the Niners. They're going to be drafting a quarterback early next year. The Niners have such a bright future. This defense, Bruce, is really explosive. They have Buckner, Solomon Thomas, Arik Armstead. Their linebackers, Bowman, Ray Armstrong. They have really talented players, Jimmy Reed. So this defense under Saleh is very good. Once Kyle Shanahan gets personnel on offense, they literally are the driest offensive personnel team. Marquise Goodwin. They have guys you never heard of before. Garcon, George Kittle. I'm sure you've never heard of him.
Kittles. I'd like is that a candy called Kittles?
Called Kittles. I
How
have
about
no
Kerry
idea.
Kittles?
Is that
Remember
old
Kerry
school?
Kittles?
Yeah, Villanova.
Kerry Kittles? Skittles.
Yeah.
And I doubt we're ever going to know much about him.
George Kittle.
Let's wrap up these games.
Bottom line, John Lynch is going to grow that thing, and the Niners have a lot to look forward to because they're very bright. But it's just
the best thing we could say is Chip Kelly's gone.
Chip Kelly gone.
He's gone.
Tom Sula gone. Chip
gone.
Kelly gone. When's Chip going to make his debut? I really want to see Chip make his debut.
You mean in the booth, in the broadcast booth?
No offense to Rex, but I just thought Rex was drier than a bone. I had Ben Fogel today. Shout out to him. He said he had to mute the TV last week between Rex and Beth Mowens.
I think Beth Mowens is really good. Rex, not so much. Let's finish. Let's look at the slate. What do we have here?
The slate's just about over. Jets Raiders. I don't want to talk about the Jets all that much,
Jets.
man.
I don't think we want to talk about the Jets.
We know what happened. Derek Carr won the game.
So here's a question.
It was an okay NFL week. The most exciting game of the entire day. The Eagles game was interesting, and I'm going to say I'll tell you what was interesting. Mike Glennon, bombing out. Blake Bortles bombing out. So you have a couple of teams that are torpedoing, and you can start chalking off some teams. And I guess Denver is a storyline as well. But
I think watching the Denver defense, which was incredible, fierce in front of a sellout crowd at Mile High, that was a fun game. No, that game was not that was not a New York Jets game, by the way.
The rain out?
It was not a Jets game.
The rain out was kind of fun. I liked that whole thing, ending it at 8 o'clock. Yep. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that the NFL is getting off to a little bit of a methodical start. We're just kind of getting our feet wet here early in the season. We're starting to see pretenders, though. The Jags and teams that we have mentioned.
Cardinals are pretenders,
yeah.
Big time.
And with Arians getting older, it's a little shaky right now in Arizona. But guys, thanks so much for hanging with. I know it's late here on Sunday night. Carlino's next Saturday, college football. And we're going to try to live stream throughout, get a couple of interviews this week, Bruce.
We're going to definitely do some live streams. And this week, there's going to be a remote for football stories on Wednesday night. It is a holiday for some of us, so we will not be doing a Rover Sports Show live in studio, but I believe we'll be doing a bunch of live streams around that Thursday holiday, and we're going to be peaking for the home game. It's going to be we're also going to be setting up in the H slot on Sunday at 11 o'clock. You guys could join us for, of course, free food, giveaways, everything in the H slot. We're going to be doing a live stream for Eagles Giants. So that's it for tonight. And as always, speaking for Spencer G, I'm Bruce the Sports Doc. Good night and good sports.
Take care, guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was awesome. So thanks. We'll see ya.